let's talk about the Nosferatu remake from a very accomplished director. His fourth movie, Robert Eggers, makes us succumb to the darkness.
A gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and the terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in its wake.
Yeah, that's Nosferatu, all right. I watched it with Connor, but you didn't rewatch the original, right?
No, I decided not. I knew that you were, so I decided not to. Because I wanted to have this sort of like clean slate of the most recent Dracula movie I watched was Bram Stoker's Dracula, so that's the last fucking thing I've got in my head for this story. So, but yeah, you saw Nosferatu, the original, the 1922 one.
Yeah, I rewatched it this year, and we have a review up for the channel and on the channel, and then like all of Robert Eggers' other films in a little revisited video series. We talked about The Witch again, and then with Connor, I chatted about The Lighthouse and The Northman. And now with Nosferatu, he taps into a film that he wanted to do right after The Witch. Didn't get to it yet. Even in college or in high school, he was part of like theater productions that also were working on like that Nosferatu Dracula tale. So it's been something that he has wanted to do for a long time. What's interesting as well is that initially we had Anya Taylor-Joy in the lead, and she's been in The Witch, he's been in The Northman. The only one she hasn't been in is The Lighthouse, because I guess that's only two dudes with Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. And she was supposed to be in this, but then couldn't because of, I guess, just schedules didn't align. So Lily-Rose Depp stepped in. We'll definitely talk about like the performances and maybe if they live up to what is needed for that, because I've seen a lot of praise for it, and I don't know if I share that. But the movie comes in at a runtime of 132 minutes, has been received pretty positively in its first 2 weeks of release in the States, and is now rolling out at the beginning of the new year internationally, and is currently sitting at a 3.9 on Letterboxd, a 7.8 on IMDb, a 78 on 54 reviews over on Metacritic, and is certified fresh, definitely, with 86% on Rotten Tomatoes. It was made for a budget of $50 million and has already grossed $56 million at the time of recording today on Jan 3rd. The biggest movie to date for Robert Eggers was The Northman, which ended up grossing $69 million internationally. That cost like $70 to $90 million, but apparently it made a return once the DVD sales come around. But this, to date, is easily Robert Eggers' biggest film. Just in the opening alone, I think it grossed more than all of those other ones did in the States alone. But enough talking about all of the money dollars. Focus Features is definitely happy, I guess, that it's making the return. But yeah, did you connect with this Robert Eggers version of Nosferatu? It was one of our most anticipated films of the year. So did it deliver?
Absolutely connected with it straight away, man. You know what? I'm gonna go out there and say that Robert Eggers is one of the best filmmakers making movies right now.
Easily.
And I think that when I watch a movie, I'm trying, first of all, I'm trying to be entertained. Like, I want to be entertained. That is not something that I ever don't want. These are entertainment pieces after all. They are there to entertain. But also, I really, really like it when something is just so technically marvelous that I am just enthralled by it. And I'm just forgetting about what's happening, and I'm just picturing how they're pushing forward, and I'm looking at these certain techniques that just make me go, man, you're a smart filmmaker, and everyone you have working on this is such a smart craftsperson at their particular profession within the set, because just the opening alone was one of the most complex camera movement shots I have seen in one of his films, with how quickly the camera moves around this sort of German set, like early 2000s, 19th century set, and how it kind of doesn't really move freely that you might see in other films, but moves in such a way that it makes it have a reason to move. A push-in, a dolly. There are people moving around in the foreground and the background, making it seem quite, busy. And then later on in the film, the streets are empty. And that is a fantastic like opening to make you go, wow, so much is happening, to then later on see that same area just desolated, there's nothing happening due to a plague that happens. And that is really smart visual storytelling, and that is throughout this entire thing. So from a technical standpoint, Ewan, I think you would probably agree with me that this is probably one of his most technically proficient films so far.
Yeah. I think what we discussed when we revisited his films in those separate reviews was especially that, like, in his first two films, he was able to craft the atmosphere through the characters and how period accurate it was in the way that they talked. And this also, I think, taking place in like 1839 or something like that. Obviously, the same thing is going on here, but with the Northman and this, he upped the ante of actually doing what he's also, I think, professional. He's not just a director; he's also a production designer. So a lot of like that stuff really comes through when he's working on his sets. The way that they like just round it out, and you see the budget goes up because that costs a ton of money, but you are like roped in and you're just like, you succumb to the darkness, to that atmosphere. And I think, yes, the more resources he gets, and I guess also the more he learns from working with that sort of stuff, it just keeps getting better. I think even though, you know, a lot of people are going to say, oh, this movie is way too dark once it is out on streaming, and a lot of like the actual bitrate is way too low, and the darkness is actually not gonna look as great as it looked amazing on the big screen. I think this is the best shot film of 2024. I think the cinematography is outstanding. Not just the look of it, of like taking stills, but then also, like you say, the way that it's used how it's moving, how it's framing, like that in par with like the blocking and ultimately like moving the camera with the staging. It's all around so impressive. And I agree, Robert Eggers, yes, is one of our best filmmakers to date. And I would not be surprised if in about 30 years time he's going to be on the same level as some other really, really renowned filmmakers that we keep talking about. You know, I think he's up there as one of the best, and I hope he gets to do more films. I don't know what he's got coming up next. I don't know if I particularly even cared about like the story that it's telling, because it's essentially like I don't know how much it differs from the 1922 version. I think it stays like thematically pretty much the same. Maybe it rounds out a bunch of characters. Obviously, now that they get to talk, we get to see more of them. I guess Aaron Taylor Johnson and Emma Corrin's character are additions to the cast that were not really as present if you watched the 1922 version. What about that cast? Because obviously Bill Skarsgård, I was like, if you see him on the cast list, where the fuck is Bill Skarsgård? Well, it's Mr. Count Orlok. You wouldn't be able to tell. Amazing work. You always talk about like, don't show us the creature. What did you think about like the amount that we get to see Nosferatu?
I think it's actually perfect, because the entire time I wanted to see him, and they do such a fantastic job hiding him. He is off camera. You see his hand. You see, you know, him in the background, but he's out of focus. They do these really and like. We'll talk a little bit more about technical stuff in a second, but like along with cinematography, the lighting of this film is just so perfect, especially because Nosferatu is one of the most popular German expressionist films out there in terms of popularity, right? And one of the biggest things in German expressionism is that really harsh crescendo lighting, that really harsh sort of like very light and then very dark, and that is super duper present here, and it is such a fantastically used element to hide his face and hide his structure, because you want to hide the creature, you want to be curious about it, and as time goes on, I'm just like, show me now, but they hold on to their cards up until the final act in my eyes to really reveal him, and then you see him in his entirety later on in the film, but They don't show him, they don't show a lot of him, but they slowly drip feed it to you till you are wanting him, which I found funny, because it's the same thing that, you know, he wants Lily-Rose Depp's character, Ellen, to do. He wants Ellen to desire him, and I'm doing the same. I'm fucking wanting to desire him too, right? Like, yes, we see his penis. Yeah. That's a part of the film, but like, I was desiring to see what Nosferatu looked like, and that was just like this weird duality of, I want to also know what he's like. I want to see him. I want to, get all up in his business. And I found that really funny that, he's also trying to get Ellen to want him and desire him and all that jazz. So for me, the non-reveal way, or the way that they've revealed him was perfect. And again, a testament to storytelling. Eggers knew that he couldn't hide him. Eggers also made this fantastic character that I think Bill Skarsgård is absolutely invisible in, and does this incredible voice. He does this incredible physical performance as well, and I absolutely and the thing is, it is not that physical. It is mostly within his voice because of how frail and old Count Orlok is. But I'll tell you what, there is one aspect to this character that I did not see coming, and I love it, and it's that fucking stash, dude. That stash, oh man, I don't know what or where the hell that idea came from, because I've never seen a vampire with a stash except in Bram Stoker's Dracula, where he is younger. But in this film, he has the stash, and I love it. I love it.
Well, I guess
but other than that,
he's a vampire.
Is great elsewhere.
Yeah, I guess he's not a younger version of the character overall. I guess because he's a vampire, so they're old anyways.
No,
I was a bit surprised.
But Lily-Rose Depp was fantastic.
Okay, so you are on that. So I think I wasn't 100% sold on her the whole time. I think to me, like standouts were in,
what about the kids?
Like I didn't mind the kids. The kids were good. I think he's always been great at directing kids, and even though they have to do they were fine. They were not like the kids in The Witch were amazing. One of the peak when it comes to child performances. But here, I guess, spoiler alert, spoiler review, I guess, they get killed. So that's always the thing. I guess in The Witch, spoiler alert, they also get killed. When kids get killed, I'm happy. And oh god, what a terrible quote.
Even though Count Orlok is fantastic, I fucking love Willem Dafoe in this. I absolutely think he steals every scene that he's in, except for the scenes with Orlok, and I think that's just I got in super excited with that character. But Dafoe's performance in this of Professor Eberhard of von Franz, he is just wacky, crazy, and that is the best Willem Dafoe performance, where he gets to just be physical, and him just being "You madman, you should have told me this," and him always trying to be the one that's shunned, but he's actually correct with this, is just a fun character for him in sort of that trait. And I think that he steals every scene that he's in with the other characters, because honestly, I really enjoyed every performance. I think Lily-Rose Depp, Nicholas Hoult did a fantastic job. Anya Taylor-Johnson, Emma Corrin, they did a fantastic job. I think that their narratives are a little bit weak, and I think that for me the main downside to this film is the actual overall story. And for me the main thing behind that is it's got a weird third act that feels like it's quite not rushed, but I feel like the first act is perfect. I think that the second act is pretty much perfect. I just find that you get to the third act, Count Orlok's 3 nights, and those nights are rushed through very, very, very quickly. And you don't have that weight of that 3 nights, and you don't have any of those big deaths take too much of an impact or last that long. So it feels like it's happening very, very quickly, and you feel like you spend a lot of time at the castle with Orlok and Thomas, and their sort of weird interaction that happens between them. And that feels like it goes on for a long time, but it doesn't feel like it's too long in the scheme of things. So I do know, and I have heard and read that, so I don't know if I actually know this, but if it's confirmed, but there is apparently an extended cut to this film that's going to be coming out on DVD when it releases. Okay. And you fucking bet I'll be watching that. Getting the DVD for sure. But the thing is, I wonder what was cut to make it shorter. Orlok? If it was shorter, and nice one. I feel like Emma Corrin and Aaron Taylor Johnson's parts may have been cut a little bit, and I feel like the the third act may have a bit more going in on it. But from what I read, apparently it was cut for pacing issues. And I'm just sitting there, I'm just like, I don't have any issues with the majority of this film for pacing. I just felt that the ending kind of happens very quickly. You don't have that weight of that impact. And for me, that's the part that kind of, unfortunately, flops for me.
I mean, at one point, it does have to get a bit faster because it's building towards a misdirect. So you do have to feel like you're catching up with something that's already happened. But do you feel like even when they're chasing him,
you don't have to have it to be quick for the misdirect. You could have that be a little bit slower because that misdirect comes through very quickly with, again, spoiler alert, the death of the family, and then it's basically into the carriage. Here's the plan. Get out of the carriage. Here's what I'm going to do. Back in the carriage. Go to do the things. Thing happens. They're not here. Cuts straight back to Orlok, and it's like that's the whole thing, and that happened way too quickly. That they should have told us about this sort of plan ages ago, but then I guess you don't have the weight of the deaths on your hands. So
yeah, am I misunderstanding something? Where like he's up in his castle, then he gets sold a place that he really wants to get to.
About Orlok, right? Up in his castle.
Yeah. Is it only
wherever he's gone?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know
his original castle.
And then he's supposed to be like Nicholas Hoult goes there. Thomas Hutter goes there to sell him this house. Does he need the okay and like the signature to actually leave?
No, because the signature is him selling his wife for a pot of gold.
Exactly, it's selling his wife. So like for me, it's always funny to me that like you get that thing of you need to invite a vampire beyond the doorstep. They can't come in. So I was thinking if like in a roundabout way, he also needs to like have a house to get to that he owns, so he can go there. Otherwise, he's just like kind of stranded. So so that was silly to me. I know he sells his wife away. Like that's ultimately what that is about. But I also thought like, is that why like he's
you're going into the technicals of vampire lore here.
Yeah, what are his constraints?
And I've been watching a little bit more of Supernatural recently, so I'm all caught up to date with the vampire.
You got all the news.
Yeah. Look, the story I think is the weak part. But when I was like sitting there waiting for like the credits rolling and I was thinking about these films, and because we're eventually going to be coming to ranking Egger's films, because I can see it in the doc, and I'm thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks to say this, but Nosferatu isn't his best film. And I say that because I don't know why he adapted something. I know that The Northman is
Hamlet,
loosely adapted Hamlet, like Shakespeare's Hamlet, and
it's the basis for the actual base legend for Hamlet.
And he could have done a similar thing here where he adapts loosely the narrative and
he stays very
else.
Close to the 1922 version story wise. There's not much beyond that happens.
Because with this film, I'm gonna give my rating now, even though we can keep talking about it, because I think that very quickly, as I talked about, the cinematography is fantastic. However, I feel like the moments that you have in something like The Lighthouse, you have very, very single image, in Nosferatu, this one, 2024. It's going to get really confusing when we have to refer to the old Nosferatu and new Nosferatu, since they're the same thing. So we just should refer it to 2024. We should just refer it to 24 Nosferatu, 22 Nosferatu. But in the 24 Nosferatu, there's the sequence with the horse carriage that comes through. And I think that shot is absolutely incredible. Incredible shot. I think it's stunning, beautiful, yada, yada, yada. But that's one moment that I think that really stands out. But I can really point out different moments in The Lighthouse that are single frames that are just absolute paintings. And I think that The Lighthouse has a better core performance because it's simplified, similar to unfortunately in compared to Nosferatu, which has a much larger cast, and you can get a better performance out of the two there, and you can have better framing. But I don't think the narrative in The Lighthouse is as good as Nosferatu. So I weirdly think that this is a combination of all of The Northman, some of the best sound design in any of his films. This film has that sound design.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse, the fantastic cinematography, because I still think The Lighthouse is his best shot film. Nosferatu, fantastic cinematography. I just don't think it's the same heights as the sound design in The Northman, the cinematography of The Lighthouse, nor the narrative of The Witch. Because The Witch isn't his prettiest and isn't his best technically, but it's his best narratively.
And ultimately, I think narrative is king. So I think I can already call out that you have The Witch probably as your number one.
I still think The Witch is his best film.
Yeah.
And I don't know in what order I would put 2, 3, and 4 because they are all like solid films. I've currently got Nosferatu at a 4, and I know I gave the Witch is a 5. I know I gave The Northman a 4.5, and The Lighthouse is what did I give The Lighthouse?
It might be a 5 for you as well. There's a 4.
The Lighthouse is a 4 as well. But the thing is, I could probably go back and watch The Lighthouse and bump it up to a 4.5. I don't think I could bump I don't think I'd bump up Nosferatu as I think it's like the most solidest of solid 4s I've ever given. Where I'm like, yep.
Yeah. I went into this wanting, just like say, I love that version from 1922. I'm like, if you want to show someone silent film, it's not the best. There's better ones out there, but it's a really good one. And it's a nice historical piece. And then this adapts it, gives it a couple more characters that don't really add to the narrative much. Like the Aaron Taylor Johnson character is basically the one that's reluctant to believe, then he has to lose. So he ultimately is like, he's a layer character because no character in a Robert Eggers movie is ever boring or one-dimensional.
No, absolutely not.
He carries like the hurt with him. He doesn't want to believe it still. There's a ton in there. It's an incredible performance. But narratively, it's not that interesting compared to like, but we're talking about like someone who's one of our best filmmakers and giving like, I don't know, a rating of an 8 out of 10 to one of his films is still high praise. For me, Nosferatu is also at the bottom. I got The Lighthouse as my number 3, really close with The Witch, both of them interchangeable. The only 5-star I'm giving out, yes, I love The Northman. That's my favorite.
I feel like I've got to go back and, because I watched The Witch recently, I feel like I could probably squeeze in The Lighthouse and The Northman over the next couple of days and really give that definitive result, because I haven't seen The Northman since theaters, and I guess
we reviewed it in episode 97.
I don't think I've seen them since, and there's a lot of time since then. But I think that Nosferatu is like a solid 4 because everything is top level, and he's learned that from his previous films. It's not perfect. And it kind of sucks to say that because this is such a fantastic movie, but I just think it's such a solid 4.
To me, I don't know. I can't really like give you specific reasons other than like the narrative feels a bit underwhelming. Why I'm 1 star off of like a perfect rating, because like a lot of things it does is like some of the, if cinematography wise, in my opinion, the best of the year. That's just where it shines. It's also been a crazy, not that like ratings have to scale in comparison to what other stuff has come out. It's just there's been other stuff this year, or I guess last year, that I loved even more. I wanted to love it more, but I think that just like kind of solidifies it. We love this filmmaker. We wouldn't go and not glaze him up. So us giving it a solid 4 is actually like a big compliment in a way as well.
Why are we getting an extended cut?
I would be, I don't know, I would be surprised if, because like there's the thing that Connor told me about this, that like Eggers wasn't happy with how A24 handled some of the work on the DVD, like with The Witch. They released it without his consent and like his approval, and there was a bunch of stuff with the occult that they kind of wanted to tie it to that he didn't like. Similar-ish things with The Lighthouse, where I wasn't the biggest fan, and then with The Northman, with Universal, I didn't really hear much that there was something that didn't work. But I think he doesn't love to go back to his films. He always criticizes them and doesn't like them anymore. Which to me, for a filmmaker on his level, is impressive, because it just shows that like maybe we haven't even seen the peak yet of what he's capable of, and it's already been like pretty incredible. Yeah, I don't know what you would change in a major way that would like...
It doesn't seem like it's going to be a much longer extended
If it's for
cut
pacing issues, then a lot of the things could just be moments, holding on moments longer, not
Yeah.
additional scenes. That is often where like pacing issues are fixed, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
We needed to keep him more mysterious. If you wish to purchase the Blu-ray, it's in the extended version of the film. Okay. So like there's a shot in one of the trailers where he turns around, and that's not in the final cut, and he says that shot's in there. But there is no exact like how long the extended cut would be. And to be fair, if that's earlier on the film where he turns around, it does make it more mysterious if you cut that out. So I totally see why they would cut that out for the final cut.
Yeah.
But if that's all it is, like a scene or two like that at the start of the film, and I think towards the end, I'm going to be a little bit disappointed because I really think it needs more time at the end. But
yeah, I don't think the type of filmmaker Roberts is. I would be surprised if there's like huge changes that were to happen.
We're not getting a fucking Ridley Scott Snyder cut fucking 4-hour long
to Napoleon.
Film.
Yeah.
No. And this is also like it's not his longest film, but it is on the longer side in comparison to both The Lighthouse and The Witch, which The Lighthouse it's like 110 minutes.
Yeah.
The Witch is like 90, and then this is 133, 132. Yeah, which is like 10 minutes shorter than what The Northman was. I think that's still his longest. I feel like The Northman is his bigger production, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like
this cost
it felt
50,
bigger.
the other one, it also cost like about like $30 million more, so it definitely was bigger. That one was action, and this one is more horror atmosphere, creature stuff, which obviously is more catering towards a niche, and we've seen it in 2024 how successful some horror films can be, even the campy ones, like the one with a weird clown or long legs, those surprises. But something like Nosferatu carrying so much money, like in about 10 days time, 2 weeks time, almost 60 million worldwide. That's impressive. That's a big movie for a horror film.
With Long Legs, I still think that would be my favorite horror film of the year. But I feel like Nosferatu is probably my close second, because it's the only other film this year that properly made me uncomfortable and scared.
But you did have major issues for Long Legs at the end as well. Here, it was a pacing issue for you at the end. In Long Legs, you hated exposition that like told you what actually was going on. When you wanted it to be more mysterious.
That was one.
But that was your one thing that you didn't like.
That was my one thing with the film.
Exactly.
And that inevitably made me not possibly give Long Legs 5 stars. Where, I've given other films 5 stars straight away, such as Anora, and I didn't have any issues with that. And with this film, it's like, no, I don't think I could give it another half a star or star. I think it's a solid 4. I don't know how ratings work. Ratings are stupid. I just got to kind of... It's a weird system. But yeah, I think that I wouldn't even... Like, I know I Saw the TV Glow is technically a horror movie, but I don't want to count it as a horror movie, really. I think it's just got horror elements, where Long Legs is horror, where Nosferatu is horror, The Substance is horror, so Romulus is horror. These films are fantastic, but I feel like this one is one of the only other films that genuinely made me uncomfortable. Well done.
Well done. Keep making us uncomfortable, Robert Eggers, and we cannot wait. Hopefully in about 3 years' time, we get his next film. It was only 2 years between The Northman and this, so I haven't been looking at what he's doing next, but I'm very excited. You said your rating for you, it's an 8 out of 10. For me, it's also an 8 out of 10.